What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the shelf, and in this video we are looking at Presence, the new film from Steven Soderbergh. So first I'm going to give you my non-spoiler thoughts. I'll go over the premise and the performances, all that kind of stuff, and then after that we'll get into the spoiler section. But before I do that, I will give you a warning, so you will be safe to watch this up until that point, if you're worried about spoilers. So I will just say that I was excited for this movie. I was looking forward to it. I saw the trailer back in November ahead of Anora when I saw that, and it looked to be a pretty unique, different kind of horror movie. So I had high expectations just because it looked like a unique experience, and so long as I got that, I feel like I would have been satisfied. And it is, you know, a unique movie, but unfortunately, it was lacking a little bit for me, so we'll get into that. All I really knew about this movie was that it was seemingly a ghost story from the POV or perspective of the ghost, similar to In a Violent Nature from last year, which was one of my favorite movies of last year. Aside from that, I didn't really have any expectations necessarily, other than just wanting, like I said, a unique, solid, enjoyable movie. The only other Steven Soderbergh film I've seen is Ocean's 11, so I really didn't have any idea what to expect stylistically or anything like that. So getting right into it, this movie is pretty well made from a technical standpoint. Right away we get this sort of haunting piano score that really sets the table for what promises to be a very classic sort of ghost story, right? So the POV stuff is effectively accomplished by having the audience follow the ghost's perspective throughout the whole movie, which is of course the camera, right? So whatever the camera sees is what the ghost is seeing. So Soderbergh uses a 14mm lens, and what this does is it's really useful like interiors, which is where this entire movie is set, because it gives you these wide sort of angles and it allows us to kind of see everything, but it also creates this like distortion effect where things don't quite look natural and they look kind of weird, and it can be quite disorienting for a 90-minute movie. So I was a little torn on that because, like I said, it was disorienting, but thematically it makes sense because we are witnessing events from a ghost's perspective, so it's not out of the question for things to look a little weird. So plot-wise, without going into spoilers yet, we follow this family who have just moved into this house where the presence seems to reside, and the family has some dysfunction going on. The parents themselves are having an issue. The mother is played by Lucy Liu, and the dad, I can't remember the name of the actor, but I think he was in one of the Guardians of the Galaxy movies or something, but they're both fine. We'll get more into that later. Frankly, they don't have a ton to do. The dad character gets to shoulder a lot of the more heartfelt conversations, specifically with the daughter Chloe, but ultimately neither of them is given a lot to do. Neither are the two siblings for that matter, but we'll get into that later. The siblings are Chloe and Tyler. Chloe is going through a bit of a traumatic experience herself, so she's in a pretty down state, and the brother Tyler is sort of your conventional douchey older brother who like plays sports. So the way we garner information is by sitting in on the ghost's observations, right? He is there for conversations with the family, and that's how we get our exposition. The ghost can interact in ways, you know, typical ghost fashion by, you know, closing doors and moving things around like that, but ultimately it just observes until important events happen. Only then does it decide to interact with the family. So unfortunately, despite this being a unique movie, I hesitate to call it a horror movie. It's not really scary at all, which like is fine, but the problem is it's not doing a ton else in place of being scary either for that to not be a problem for me, right? It's like a movie can be, you know, a movie can have poorly written characters, but if it's scary or there's some good kills, then I can overlook that. Unfortunately, this is neither scary nor does it have interesting characters, so that's kind of an issue for me. The film is not very well acted, like I said. The dialogue is quite bad. It can be pretty cringeworthy, especially with the brother Tyler and his friend Ryan. Some of the stuff that they say is very cringeworthy. It feels like it was written by adults who have never heard modern teenagers talk, so that was kind of distracting. Like I said, I'd be willing to forgive these things if there was some genuine tension or some creepiness or some eeriness, but you really just don't get that. This movie is more of just a family drama being told through the perspective of the ghost, which on its face is not a bad idea, but it's the execution that's, leaves a lot to be desired. The camera work, like I said, is very glidey, it's very seamless, but the premise sort of hinges on that being good, so achieving that is sort of just like doing the bare minimum. So not a lot to praise there, unfortunately. Yeah, so all in all, this movie, it has a cool premise, but the script needed a lot more work, specifically in the dialogue department. Alright, so that is the spoiler-free section done. I would say that despite the fact that I was not super satisfied with this movie, you should still definitely check it out because, like I said, it is a unique movie and it might be more effective for you, so definitely check it out. Don't let my opinion kind of sway you one way or the other. I'm just sort of giving my thoughts, right? I will also say that if you're looking for something new to go see, it is January, so pickings are slim. You could do a lot worse. This movie isn't like awful or anything like that. I just personally was left wanting a little bit more. Alright, so this is your spoiler warning. If you don't want any spoilers for this, click off the video now. Alright, so early on in the film, we discover that Chloe is very depressed because her friend Nadia died of a drug overdose. So we've got some turmoil there, and then the parents are also having issues and could potentially be facing like some legal ramifications. It's all left pretty ambiguous, but we're left to imply that the mother is doing something with her job that is not necessarily legal, and the dad is aware of it, but again, they don't really go into it much. It's just sort of there as like a plot device to sort of drive home the fact that like this family is crumbling. Doesn't really quite work for me. The fact that, it's never really gone into, it sort of just seems to be there because we need some kind of rift between the parents. It's not really fleshed out, but the other thing is that, to play devil's advocate, we are witnessing events through the POV of the ghost, and the ghost only seems to emerge during significant events. So it makes sense that, it's a clever plot device that, we don't know all the details. So call it clever, call it lazy, it is what it is, I guess. That's up to you. Opinions may vary on that one. So because Chloe is so depressed, they are, discussing whether or not she should see a new therapist or try some new medication, stuff like that. They are concerned about her mental state. So the presence seems to reside in Chloe's closet. It's always there, usually, and we observe the presence doing things to like protect her. It like organizes her room. It closes the door after Tyler brings his douchey friend Ryan over, and Chloe's like sitting on the bed, kind of like with her butt facing the door. I think because she knows Tyler's bringing his friend over. So we see the ghost like close the door after her, almost to suggest that the ghost doesn't want anyone to see her like that. It's all sort of show, don't tell, which I would give the movie praise for. And then one night, the presence observes Tyler telling his family a story about how he and his friends like pulled a prank on some girl, which like the mom is like weirdly into the story, and it's like Tyler is like talking about how he pulled a prank on this girl and like totally embarrassed her, and he's like telling his parents and his family this like it's something like he got an A on his test. I found this very strange. The mom is like super into the story and like almost proud of him. I do not know what that was all about. It was very weird to me. Didn't really sit right with me. But that aside, the presence observes this, and then the presence goes upstairs and like destroys Tyler's room upon hearing this story about how he pranked this girl. So all of these things that the ghost does leads Chloe to believe that the ghost is the ghost of her dead friend, Nadia. So, by the way, when the ghost is destroying Tyler's room, the whole family runs upstairs and, like, observes it, right? Like, beyond a shadow of a doubt, things are flying around. They see it. It is, like, clearly supernatural paranormal activity going on right in front of them. And so they clearly witness this, and then they really don't spend the rest of the movie seemingly interested or perturbed by this whatsoever. It's kind of odd. So, though, after this, the family does enlist the help of a psychic. This is a very classic cliche sort of plot device where they bring in this lady and she senses that there's a presence. She tells them that the presence doesn't know what it is. It's trying to figure itself out, and it's trying to figure its purpose out. And the presence is not bound by time, so it doesn't even know when it is, which is interesting. I haven't really seen anything like that in any ghost movies before. So whatever the purpose that this presence has, the events surrounding it have not yet come to pass, is what the psychic says, right? So despite witnessing the paranormal activity for themselves without a shadow of a doubt, the parents say that the psychic is full of shit and tells her that she's not welcome in their house anymore. And that's just sort of that. And then they all just kind of go about their lives as though nothing happened. And it's just super... I could not get past this part. It was very weird, especially considering what happens next. I also have to mention that there's this kid named Ryan who Tyler, I mentioned earlier, but we have to talk about him more now. So Tyler brings over this kid Ryan, right? And he's super weird, but Ryan takes an interest in Chloe, and before long the two of them start like hooking up. One day, like in the middle of the day, the presence observes Ryan trying to spike Chloe's drink. The two of them have been like hooking up while her parents are at work, and Tyler's like presumably like playing sports or something. So they'll just be like drinking in the middle of the day, and yeah, Ryan is like spiking her drink, which is weird. But the presence sees this and knocks the drink over before she can drink it. So that's another thing that leads Chloe to believe that the presence is her friend Nadia, because Nadia would be trying to like look out for her, right? This also lets us know that this kid Ryan is like up to some shit and just not to be trusted. He also talks just really weirdly and like speaks very like philosophically about, you know, how she's in control and this and that, and it's just very weird, and it doesn't feel like natural dialogue that teenagers would have. It's very bizarre and kind of takes me out of the movie a little bit. So this is when shit gets really kind of bizarre. In the final act, the parents go off on some business meeting, leaving the kids completely alone in the house, despite knowing without a shadow of a doubt that their house is haunted. It's not even like it's debatable. Like, the whole family saw Tyler's room being like destroyed by a ghost. I cannot get past this. I know I keep harping on it, but they just keep doing things after that people would not do had they witnessed what they witnessed. It was annoying to me. I digress. I also have to mention right here that like throughout the film, Tyler has been a huge dick to his sister. He's constantly implying that she's crazy and she's attention seeking with this whole ghost nonsense. Yeah, and Tyler's dad berates him constantly for never standing up for his sister. So yeah, I had to mention this right here because it's going to be important later. So with the parents gone, Ryan comes over and plans to have sex with Chloe, but the problem is Tyler is here and Chloe's not comfortable with them banging with her brother in the house, understandably so. So Ryan drugs Tyler, knocks him out, and then goes upstairs and proceeds to drug Chloe as well. With Chloe drugged, Ryan launches into this psychotic monologue where he talks about how he's actually been in control the whole time, despite making Chloe feel like she was the one calling the shots in their relationship. And he also reveals that he's actually the one who drugged and killed her friend Nadia prior to the events of the movie. Right away, we discover, this kind of comes out of nowhere, to be frank. Like, we assume up until this point that Ryan is just kind of like a predator and, you know, just gonna do like some date shit. But no, he's full-blown psychotic teenager and is a murderer and is just a serial killer, I guess, because he's planning on killing Chloe the same way he killed her friend Nadia, which is just by drugging them and making it seem like an overdose. So this kind of comes out of left field, and it's kind of weird, and it feels underdeveloped and not earned. But that aside, the Presence is witnessing all of this. The Presence frantically goes downstairs and wakes up Tyler. So with Tyler awake now, he runs upstairs and barges into the room, and he stops Ryan from assaulting his sister, and he does this by kind of grabbing Ryan, and they both, he pushes him out the window where they both fall to their death. So it's at this point that we discover that the Presence has actually been Tyler all along. Tyler's future ghost has been looking after his sister the whole movie. This reveal is actually kind of heartwarming and is really the only thing about the movie that worked for me on a story level. Because up until this point, Tyler has just been nothing but a dick to his sister the entire movie. But ultimately, he died saving her and proceeds to spend his afterlife protecting her. So that was cool because, you know, the whole time you think it's been Nadia's ghost who's been doing these little things to look out for her, and really it's been her brother, which is, you know, like I said, it's pretty heartwarming, and it kind of worked for me once that kind of processed with me after the movie was over. I also like the idea of there being like a future ghost. Like in all ghost movies, you kind of assume that whoever's ghost it is already dead. And this movie introduces the idea of one of the main characters, one of their ghosts being the ghost that you're currently dealing with. So that's an interesting sort of twist on the genre that I've never seen before, and I have to give the movie a little bit of credit for that. So the final scene of the movie, the family is moving out, and the mom character is looking in this mirror. There's this mirror throughout the movie that they've constantly sort of, not constantly, but they repeatedly sort of address this mirror, and it's got some sort of significance. And we discover what that significance is here in the final shot, where the mother looks in the mirror, and this is sort of the only scare of the movie. She looks in the mirror and bam, there's Tyler looking in the mirror back at her. It kind of comes out of nowhere. It's creepy, and her response is very authentic, and she's definitely super startled by it, and it startled me. And I found this to be really effective, and it's probably one of the best scenes. It's probably the best scene in the whole movie. It's just a shame that it comes so late in the movie, and there was nothing really prior to this to really kind of generate any tension or any effective creepiness or, you know, atmosphere or anything like that. So to kind of close this out, I found that the acting, the dialogue, and the lack of any real tension until the very end of the movie to be the biggest problems with this movie. The resolution was pretty satisfying, but I needed a little bit more to get invested in personally. The premise is interesting and hinges upon some unique camera work to really make it work, but the story is lacking, and the performances are not really there, they're not good, and the characters aren't really fleshed out enough for me to be invested in them. In the horror genre, I really value unique experiences. It's so hard to craft something that we haven't seen before, and this movie does provide that, but it just needed a little bit more to kind of push this into that like really special territory. So, alright guys, so that's my thoughts on Presence. I really wanted to like this movie more than I wound up liking it, and maybe the more I sit with it, the more I'll like it. But ultimately, the problems with the dialogue and the poor acting are really going to be the things that drag this movie down for me. Like I said, on a technical level, this thing worked, but yeah, just needed a little bit more. Alright guys, so did you see Presence? Let me know your thoughts about the movie down in the comments section. I would love to hear them. Maybe there's some things that I missed out on and were not aware of. So if you think I missed anything important, yeah, please let me know down in the comment section. Like the video if you liked it, subscribe if you haven't. We talk about new movies, old movies, physical media, and horror in general. And with all that being said, guys, please take care and watch more movies.